Welcome back to Restorative Justice and Peace Building, and congratulations, this is your final week. I trust you have already submitted your last paper, breathed a bit of a sigh of relief, and this week will be a bit more of a fun wrap-up. I love this course, and I am so gratified to see that you all love restorative justice and peace building as well. I want to commend you again. Occasionally, a student will call from the distant past just to say something wonderful, excuse me, about NCRP. And I received one of those comments a few months ago. The student said that this was the best time of her life when she was in our program. And even though I take that as a great compliment, I also feel a twinge because I want all of you, once you've completed our program and graduated, to go on to spread the magic and the community that happens in this program. And you all can if you commit to mastering the skills you have learned in the program and taking the attitudes that I have seen demonstrated throughout this course. Open-mindedness, concern about others, doing what you can to lift each other up. All of that will keep the magic, the beauty of our program alive, and you will help spread it to the rest of the world. Truly, when I had my full-time private mediation practice, I would experience that magic in mediation rooms where highly conflicted parties who had not been speaking to each other for a long time came into our mediation with little hope. They did not expect to speak to each other. They were just giving mediation a chance. And when the magic of mediation and NCRP works, they describe a miraculous outcome. Not only did they listen to and begin to understand their, excuse the language, opponent, but they actually discovered common ground and the ability to reach agreement. Some of those parties have been motivated to become mediators themselves. Too few people in this world have experienced the power and potential of mediation when it is done and experienced in a masterful way. Now, I know not all of you are motivated to become mediators, and depending on your personal gifts, perhaps another direction is most appropriate. But I do want to encourage you to keep the memories of this class alive after this week, after your graduation from our program. And if the magic is not happening, I would encourage you, as most professional negotiators and mediators, peace builders, whether they're activists or NGO staff, full-time professional conflict resolution staff and organizations, they all stay in touch with respected and trusted professionals with whom they can confer and consult when they are experiencing obstacles and problems and are not quite sure what they could do to make it work more effectively. I have spent a lifetime with those professional consultations, and they help me go further and deeper with the most troubling of conflict. So I want to encourage you to do the same. Now this week I'm asking you a couple of very broad questions. If you look in the calendar and the syllabus, I'm asking, what is your detailed vision of a just society? Now, many activists will say that peace and justice go hand in hand. I happen to believe that that's true, especially when we talk about true objective justice. Now, when justice is used as another word for positional bargaining, it can get problematic. But when justice is something that a collective agrees to, then I do believe peace and justice go hand in hand. And I enjoyed your debate last week. It's a debate that's meant to continue and not have a conclusion. It's a very important debate for our society, whether it's our US society or our global society today. Rule of law in the United States was created with the foundation in the US Constitution to offer equal opportunity to all people regardless of religion, gender, the list goes on and on. And we are still, despite all of our challenges and problems, one of the nation states that the world looks to because rule of law is able to bridge our differences. Now, you have studied in this course that in the criminal justice system, there are many challenges and problems that need to be addressed. But if we step back for a minute from the criminal justice system, if we consider human rights and constitutional rights, we can acknowledge that rule of law in this country was created to advance justice. I'd like you to consider that as you explore your vision of a just society. I'm also asking you, what is required to create and sustain a just society? I would like to submit that most days of our lives we have opportunities to advance justice in our relationships, in our organizations, in our communities. And by enrolling in our master's program in NCRP, you have a toolbox of many, many skills that most of the world does not have to help you with advocating and creating justice. Now, my experience with our criminal justice system started when I was a volunteer probation officer with low-risk felons. As many of you know, I went on to be a social worker, a consultant for a treatment center with repeat violent juvenile offenders. And I have been a victim offender mediator for many years. It is my strong belief and experience that the majority of people, at least half, but probably many more, who are incarcerated in the world today never stood a chance. From birth on, I worked with a young girl whose mother tried to suffocate her at birth. They have experienced repeated acts of injustice and brutal violence, whether in their families, in their communities, even in their schools, where we would hope they would be safe. And so this is a big and growing problem that I'm going to focus on the US society right now, that our society, of course, all others, face. But we in particular must start to address the roots of injustice in the lives of those who go on to become incarcerated. Now, I am not talking about all inmates. Some are very sick individuals who are not able to control very destructive impulses. I'm not trying to generalize. If you can simply focus with me on the group that has never had justice in their life, has never been protected, if they have not been abused and violated, they have been grossly neglected. Since I believe the population crisis is one of the biggest problems that the world is now facing, we need to look at ways we can address this. And I'm not trying to become political in this upcoming election. I have very complex views about how to approach this. But certainly if we showed more concern for the most vulnerable among us, we could make a critical difference in reducing imprisonment, prison costs, prison tragedies. I'm trying to stimulate a rich discussion this week, your last week of class. I think I would like to end on a positive note and reiterate the enormous potential that I see with NCRP in advancing and creating justice in our personal lives, in our families, in our churches, in our communities, in our organizations, and around the world. So I don't want you to feel defeated and overwhelmed with the discussion this week. Instead, I would encourage you, as many of you are wrapping up our program and beginning to consider your portfolio, your culminating project, what are your greatest NCRP strengths? What are your greatest passions and interests? And how can you take what you've learned here to make the difference that you were born to make, that you would love to make? Thank you for being a part of this class. I trust we will stay in touch for many, many years. Good luck.